What's up everyone, and welcome to a new series I'm doing called Anime vs Dragon Ball, where we take a character and compare them or any versions of them to Dragon Ball and see where they stack up in the Dragon Ball universe. We'll be looking at the powers of the contenders, and compare them to different eras of Dragon Ball depending on how powerful they are, and then the different characters in those eras. Obviously, this could be anything from the original Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Super, or even something like GT or Heroes. Today, we'll be looking at Toshinori Yagi, otherwise known as All Might, from My Hero Academia, and let's see how well he'd do in the Dragon Ball universe. Hopefully I didn't butcher pronouncing his name, because I'm never good at pronouncing Japanese names, but let's begin with the number one pro hero himself. God, the comment sections on this video is probably going to be pretty fun to look at. Now, we aren't going to be going insanely in depth with his power, as I could spend all day talking about calculations and feats for him with just one aspect of an ability for him. And along with that, we're going to estimate how well he'd do against someone in Dragon Ball, and the two aren't directly comparable because they're completely different universes, so take all this with a grain of salt, obviously. With that quick disclaimer out of the way, let's get into it. While he may not be as strong as he was in his glory days, All Might was still one of the strongest characters in his verse and still is, formerly being the number one hero for quite some time and being well known and loved by everyone. Even if you haven't fully watched My Hero Academia, there's a good chance that you know who All Might is. He's well known inside his universe and real life. Oh, and another fun fact that you guys may know, he shares the same English voice actor with Vegeta and Piccolo, which explains why he and Piccolo sound exactly the same. Cool. Anyways, he's a pretty strong guy. Sadly, we don't have a lot to go off of, but from what little we have, I feel there's enough for some rough estimates. His ability, one for all, is really just having immense strength and can be used effectively in offense or defense. In his prime, he was a lot stronger than he is now, but after sustaining a serious injury in a fight, he's usually stuck in his normal form, which looks very sickly and causes him to cough up blood. You've probably seen that form too, this one right here. He's not always in that buff form that you guys see. He could still transform into that form, albeit for much less time. Even with that, he's still very powerful despite not being in his prime. His attacks are so strong they could literally alter the weather by bringing weather from another location. He's very durable as seen from his fight with All For One, and he can go so fast that he travels beyond supersonic speeds at some points. One thing we look at is his fight with Nomu, which gives us a decent estimate of how much more powerful he was in his prime. In terms of combat power, All Might said it took 300 punches for him to defeat Nomu. He stated that in his prime, it would have only taken 5 punches. Given that he knows his power and how powerful he was before, as well as his expertise and how long he's been around, it's safe to assume his estimate is correct, meaning his prime was about 60 times stronger than his current state, which is crazy. Now, without getting to insane calculations, I've linked a post in the description that did some calculations to find out how powerful All Might's punches might be. From the calculations based on the scene where All Might brings a thunderstorm to the city from one punch, it's found that his punch had the power of around 876.38 megatons of TNT, which is more than enough to destroy a mountain. That's the power of 876,380,000 tons of TNT, which is massive. So with some simple multiplication, we can estimate that in his prime, All Might possibly be able to put out close to 52.6 gigatons of force, or 52,600,000,000 tons of TNT. That equals about 220 quintillion, 78 quadrillion, 400 trillion joules of energy. Holy shit. That's around what you need to destroy an island that's a couple hundred or thousand square miles in size. Remember, this is only an estimate and could be inaccurate. As for his speed, it's a little more straightforward. In his fight with All For One states that All Might took 30 seconds to travel 5 kilometers. At that speed, he's moving close to 373 miles per hour. That's about the speed of the fastest train on Earth, the Maglev, which topped out at 375 miles per hour for its highest recorded speed. But if we use that same 60 times multiplier and assume his power and speed are relative, then that would mean in his prime, he could top out at around 22,380 miles per hour, over Mach 29, which is 29 times faster than sound. That means he could travel around the Earth in just over an hour, which is over 10 times faster than the fastest plane in history, the SR-71 Blackbird. His defense is probably the easiest thing to determine. His durability has been shown to be similar to his strength, so he could probably take attacks similar to his and is as durable as he is strong, meaning an island-busting attack would probably be what he could take. Now with those out of the way, let's bring him over to the Dragon World. First, let's start with his current form, where he can only maintain his power anywhere from 90 minutes to 3 hours, and is heavily weakened from where he was before. He's powerful enough to destroy a mountain, which is very impressive, and he can take mountain level attacks, and move at just under half the speed of sound. However, he has a major weak spot, which could be exploited easily by anyone, and a time limit for his power. For an easy comparison, let's compare him to the character with the most feats to base off of, Goku. Now, I can already hear everyone typing in the comments already, but don't worry, I'm not going to say he's like around Super Saiyan Blue Goku level. I'm comparing him to Goku from the original Dragon Ball and very early Dragon Ball Z. Based on his fight with King Piccolo, and later Piccolo Jr., I would say current All Might is between the power of Kid Goku when he fought King Piccolo, and Teenage Goku from the 23rd World Tournament. As for Kid Goku, he defeated King Piccolo, who was around city level at best. But the difference between him and Teen Goku are too immense to compare with All Might in his current state. Teen Goku was fighting Piccolo Jr., and well, Piccolo Jr. fired a blast at one point, and did this to a large island. That's pretty damn cool. But you can argue that All Might was weaker at this point than when he saved Deku, because he only could hold his form for about half the time he originally did, so we could assume that he's a little bit weaker than when we first saw him and he had that Thunderstorm feat. But obviously we don't know how much weaker he is. And because of that, I feel it's safe to put current All Might far above Kid Goku, but below Teen Goku. Maybe Goku in his Grade 8 form would be a better match for him. I know that makes him sound like he's weak, that he's only around the level of Kid Goku, but you gotta consider how strong Kid Goku was. Like, everyone in Dragon Ball is insanely overpowered when compared to a normal human, even in the original Dragon Ball and before Z. But like, once we get into Z, we have such insane feats that you can't even compare some other characters to them. Like in the first saga alone, we have Planet Busters and people beyond that. Hell, we even see Frieza in the first saga for a bit, and we know how strong he is. But I'll get into Dragon Ball Z in a bit once we talk about All Might in his prime form. Now, let's talk about All Might from the past. Like we were talking about before, when he was in his prime, he was powerful enough to bust islands and defend against a similar power, and was able to move about 29 times the speed of sound. Now, we can get into Dragon Ball Z territory, but we're still going to be dancing around the Dragon Ball territory, specifically the 23rd World Tournament. Considering how early on it was in Z, you might think it's bad that I'm saying this, but I wouldn't be able to compare All Might to someone like Goku or Piccolo from their fight with Raditz. During this fight, even though Raditz might look like the only powerful one, every character is actually very powerful. So let's talk about Piccolo for a second again. He's a little bit weaker than Goku, but after his fight with Raditz, we see him destroy the moon, pretty easily in fact. Now a lot of people debate if this is an outlier or not, but considering how strong everyone is once Vegeta and Nappa arrive, in comparison to them, I think it makes sense to say this isn't an outlier. Well, at least in terms of power. I mean honestly, I can make a whole video on this topic alone because this has been debated for a while. But usually it's debating the speed feat, not really the power feat. And given that Piccolo's had years of training since the last tournament, and how exponentially more powerful he got when he trained after Raditz, it's not unlikely to assume that Piccolo would be able to destroy a moon at this point. Okay, but why am I talking about Piccolo destroying a moon, you're probably asking? Well, Piccolo destroyed the moon pretty easily, and Goku's stronger than him. And we covered by now that All Might was only about island level. I'm mainly only using this to justify that I don't think All Might is around Dragon Ball Z character level, at least not around the level of someone like Goku or Piccolo. And I could start talking about power levels, but they're so inconsistent when it comes to busting power that I don't think it would make much sense to talk about it. It's only good if you're comparing power levels to other power levels to see if someone's stronger than another. But All Might obviously doesn't have power levels, so we're just going to stick to feats for now. So back on topic, I think it's safe for us to move back to the 23rd World Tournament. Like I said before, Piccolo was able to destroy a large island at this point, and Goku is around his level at that point. So even then, I'd say debatably that All Might wouldn't even really be around their level either. But that doesn't completely exclude him from this arc in terms of power. Personally in this arc, I would put Prime All Might just above where someone like Krillin or Tien would be, but below Teen Goku, all from the 23rd World Tournament of course. Tien and Krillin are very strong at this point, and comparable to each other. Going off Tien's feats, he was able to easily defeat Cyborg Tao, who's above King Piccolo level, and he was able to fight a casual Goku, and Goku was being very casual in the fight. But still, he was able to put up his own fight against him. I would say that these two are around the level of Prime All Might in terms of power, maybe a little bit below. For speed, these two are also way above the speed of sound and could possibly take on All Might in terms of that. We don't know exactly how strong they are, and the same goes for All Might, but with estimate and power scaling, I'd say it's a good bet that Prime All Might would be a fearsome competitor in the 23rd World Tournament, well, not for Goku and Piccolo at least. But I'd say he'd be under them. Definitely one of the top 5 strongest in that arc. Potentially even top 3, even though the top 2 are very far ahead of everyone else. And I know, it might seem like I'm making All Might sound weak, but you gotta consider how strong everyone was in this arc alone. Just because it's early Dragon Ball doesn't mean that he's weak by any means. He's still insanely powerful. Much more powerful than a regular human would be, or a lot of other characters. All I'm saying is I don't think he would be able to fare well against someone like Goku or Piccolo in early DBZ, or obviously any time after that. What did you guys think of this video? How do you guys personally think All Might stacks up? What characters should I compare next? Let me know in your comments below, and let me know your personal thoughts on his feats. And as usual, if you liked the video, remember to drop a like and subscribe, as well as hitting the bell icon to get notifications for all of my future videos. And if you agree or disagree with me, or have any other sources you want to bring up, I'm open to any sort of discussion, so leave that down in the comments, or you can contact me on Twitter. I'm interested in hearing everyone else's thoughts. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.